hardest thing about vocation, God does a lot of amazing things in the life of someone who's following their vocation, and sometimes it's hard to separate what I'm doing because of my personality and not get caught up in the pride of that, to say this is God working. When God has you changing lives and forgiving sins and confession, bringing his body and blood to the people, when he has you doing amazing, divine, heavenly things, we have to remind ourselves that it's not us doing any of it. It's not me that's part of that. And when God gives us so many abilities to do these things, we have to separate ourselves from that. The other part about being a celibate is you are alone. You're alone a lot, and you have to, when you are in a relationship primarily with a God who you don't see, and a God who you don't hear, and a God who you can't have in a tangible way like that, we have to remind ourselves constantly through a life of prayer and through a life of friends, etc., but especially through a life of prayer, that Christ is the one that allows me to have that intimacy with him, and that fulfills all things. I don't need anybody else.
Right now it's a lot of waiting, spending a lot of time in formation, and sometimes, I guess, if you're engaged to be married, the very long engagement can be quite irritating, and there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of love you want to give away, and I don't necessarily have the ability to give it out yet. But the same thing that frustrates me about that, about being a part of the solution, starting to do the work of the Lord, is also consoling, because just start building it up, you start building it up, you start building it up, and then by the end, God willing, I'll have a treasure chest and I can just start throwing out that treasure. So.
The hardest thing about my vocation is the fact that priesthood, and especially in the areas where you serve in a leadership role, which is serving people, kind of a prophetic role, a visionary role, a protective role, that because of that, by virtue of that, oftentimes others do not always see or understand. It's somewhat like a father of a family. You know, dad is the one that is supposed to see kind of beyond the next hill and kind of protect the family, lead the family. The family may not always understand where dad is coming from, but dad has to oftentimes stand alone in that vision for the good of the family, and sometimes that can be very painful.
Serving people in their sorrow, and in the sense of seeing a lot of the suffering that the faithful go through sickness, and having to try to comfort them without having true answers as to why all the suffering happens.